A very good evening. The show is called The Biggest Story Tonight, and I'm Deepthi Sachdeva. We begin with our top focus on a story that a lot of you have been talking about. The story is from the US, but the story is historic. The story also, ladies and gentlemen, has a direct impact, a direct bearing on what happens in the presidential race to who the next US president will be in 2024. The former US President Donald Trump is expected to appear before a specially secured Manhattan courthouse on Tuesday to be arraigned on criminal charges related to paying hush money to a porn star during his 2016 presidential campaign. So that is a charge. Now, Trump flew to New York City earlier. He's currently at the Trump Tower. He's the first former US president to be facing this criminal charge. Will appear before the judge close to about 11:45 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Ahead of his court appearance, Trump supporters have begun to already gather outside the court. Also, we are looking at a lot of important developments vis-a-vis the denial itself that has come in from Donald Trump, who has earlier released a statement. He slams the jury's decision to indict him. He alleges this is political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history. But what will happen in the next few hours, that, ladies and gentlemen, will have a complete bearing on Donald Trump, his own life, his career, and the big US presidential race of 2024. I'm told our colleague Abhishek is live with us, helping us take that story ahead and the ramifications. You know, Abhishek, many today are watching what is happening in the US. This is historic because for the first time, you have a US president who actually has been indicted, Abhishek. Now, the story has ramifications not just for Donald Trump, his own particular life, his own, career. Also, Abhishek, the Republican Party, the upcoming big presidential election in the November of 2024.
Well, yes, Deepthi. So if you're getting me, President Clinton was impeached, not for any cigar thing, but for perjury, is it? Lying under oath. Similarly, President Trump, former President Trump, is not being indicted or has not been indicted for paying hush money because that's legal, but he's being indicted for tax fraud or business fraud, essentially tax evasion, because whatever money he paid, it did not get properly reflected perhaps in his income tax returns or whatever American equivalent of income tax returns happen. So that's essentially the case. Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan district attorney, he's a known Democrat, and he has been going after Donald Trump in a similar manner that Kenneth Starr had gone after President Clinton at that time. These are some of the things I recall and connect. But what is important is that the case pertains to Donald Trump paying hush money through his personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, sometime in 2015-16 to make Stormy Daniels not speak about the affair they had, a brief affair they had sometime in 2004-05. At that time, President Trump was married to Melania Trump, and subsequently, the matter came out and Michael Cohen was investigated. Initially, he said no, and then he said, oh, he did that on the instructions of his boss, which was Donald Trump. Donald Trump, by that time, had become president, and he denied initially that anything like that happened. And then later, he in fact admitted that, yes, this had happened, but then the money was paid and it was some business dealing. But did that business dealing reflect in the documentation that generally goes with the income tax returns? Perhaps not, and that is something which has been investigated. A grand jury, as it is called, America still follows the system of jury. A grand jury of 30 looked into the investigation that has been brought together by District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and then the jury found Trump to be responsible on 30 counts related to business fraud again. So, the exact charges which are put on Trump are yet to be revealed, Deepthi. It still remains in a sealed cover, and once Donald Trump appears before the court, I think that unsealing and telling him of the charges would happen, and then perhaps we would know exactly what are the charges against him. Does it get limited to a tax fraud, or is it beyond? But remember, it has got mired in politics because of the Democrat connections of Alvin Bragg. Not that Americans are unfamiliar with this system, because in their case, the judges, it's a winner-takes-all system. So if there is a Democrat administration, most of the attorneys and judges right up to the Supreme Court, typically even the NASA director, for example, not necessarily scientists, but would be a Democrat. Similarly, if there is a Republican administration, all these posts go to Republican party members, in fact, in many cases, or openly party-affiliated individuals. So that's the case. So Alvin Bragg's Democrat credentials give some sense to Trump supporters of a political witch hunt, and that's really what Donald Trump has been harping upon. Remember, he has already announced his candidature for 2024 presidency, and he's in a fight with the likes of Nikki Haley, for example, and Vivek Ramakrishna of Indian origin, both of Indian origin, in fact, to become the Republican candidate, presidential candidate for 2024. And in the pictures, we see how he has come with his legal team from Florida, from his Mar-a-Lago residence where he stays, in his personal aircraft, and landed in New York. And I believe in the pictures we saw that he should be at the court anytime soon. So that's essentially what has happened in New York and with Trump over the last few days. Politics, part of it, is something which is going to continue to pan out, Deepthi, and as a build-up to the presidential campaign, this is going to be a key factor. But as I said, he's not being charged for paying hush money to a porn star, because that seems legal in the United States. He is being charged for not reflecting that money adequately, or that expense in his income tax returns, or in whichever manner he did. It did not correspond with the exact nature of the expenditure incurred. So I think that's what's happening. Interesting bit, as it can happen only in the United States. We saw Bill Clinton, for example, getting impeached twice, but still completing his term. And Donald Trump, of course, now getting indicted. He's not president, so there's no question not needed, impeachment not needed. But the fact that he gets indicted, charged, and the first time that an American president is facing a criminal case and has got indicted, it would be interesting to see how the legal proceedings go on. The defense, so far as Donald Trump is concerned, has been that everything was accounted for, and whatever else is happening is political witch hunt led by an attorney who's openly Democrat.
That is true, Abhishek. The charges related to falsifying his business records. I mean, that is exactly what we've heard. But yes, like, in the next few hours, as we'll see Trump in the court, a lot of these charges will be, spoken of. There isn't much of a media actually even allowed inside. There are only limited number of photographers, media completely barred. But what we are playing out on our screens are images of earlier today, in fact, Donald Trump. And outside the court, we do see a lot of presence of his supporters already. Now, what does the attorney say? What is the game plan? What is the legal strategy of Donald Trump from here on, Abhishek? We listen into this reaction, and then I come back to you.
Mystery here, because we're doing something that's never been done before. We're having an arraignment at 100 Center Street. Just about certain procedural things, but nothing substantively regarding the indictment. They have not shared it with us. There's no indication that there will be a gag order. It can't happen in this case. Look, when you have a gag order, you have to balance a couple things. The First Amendment, right, which is important to all of Americans, and the right to a fair trial for both sides. So that's a balancing act. Here you have something uniquely different. The defendant is the leading Republican candidate for the office of the President of the United States and will be campaigning. Hard to put a gag order when he's going to be fielding questions about his current legal situation. So, but there's been no indication that there'll be a gag order imposed or even attempted to be imposed.
So we will be hearing from President Trump tonight?
You will be. Yes, you will. He plans on, after court, leaving and making a statement.